WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Annandale, it in of itself, is a rare exotic whiskey. Single cask for Germany exclusive, even more rare and exotic. And last of all, we now have the Deerhound Collection. This is from an independent bottler over here in Germany, and all their bottles will now have this Deerhound on there, made by Lana Mattison. I owe you still a video about this one. This is the Linkwood, this is the Annandale, and there's going to be 4 more, I think. So it's going to be a series of 6 for people who like interesting labels with dogs on them, yeah? All right, so Whiskybase number 223540. And what we have here is a single cask. Annandale, we have the word of, okay, wait a second. I have to think about this for a second. We have the Man of Swords, which is their peated version, 45 ppm, and we have the Man of Words, ding, 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 which is unpeated, which I like the best. Now, to be very honest, I have a cask at Annandale. I tried some of these Founders, they called Founder Selections, a good year ago, and I was so, wow, so excited, so just taken aback by the quality that I got some people together, we did a cask share, and I bought a cask. I have not been to Annandale yet. This summer I visited all my different casks in Ireland. Maybe next year I'm going to have the chance to get out of here for a couple of days and go visit some of my casks in Scotland. I don't have many casks in Scotland. I have Annandale and that's it. I have casks in Germany, but I need to buy some more casks in Scotland. Who knows? All right, so this was distilled on the 19th of October 2017. So they started November 2014 distilling, and this was bottled on the 24th of October 2022, 5 years old. Now, on the label it says matured in a first fill, and they put quotation marks around Heaven Hill Bourbon Barrel. Now, more and more people in Germany, especially independent bottlers, are quoting or naming the casks that they use to mature their whiskeys in. And so we have in Germany something called the Westphalian, and they have done whiskeys in Macallan casks, I think it was. They've done it in Lefroy casks. They've done it in Altmore casks. And now I do remember the very first time Annandale brought a cask. They were in Buffalo Trace cask, because now we have a Heaven Hill cask. So cask number 1257, and this is total bottle 260. So if you do the math a little bit, you do find out there was an angel share of about 10% over those 5 years, so 2%. So it's not really that bad, and it's cask strength 58.6%. Now, this puppy over here is an original bottling from Annandale Distillery. This is the Man of Words, 2005 distilled and 2020 bottled. Whiskybase number 1771851 and cask number 537, 59.3%. Now, this bottle, amazingly, is still available in Germany. Over a year and a half later, 2 years later, sorry. It came out in December 2020. So 2 years later, we're now January 2023. This bottle went for 139 euros. Way, way, way too expensive. That's why it's still in some of the shops. This bottle now costs 79 euros. Is that still too expensive? Well, it's not a bargain. Let's say that. All right, so according to my nice little book here, I love my little book, my Malt Whiskey Yearbook 2023. We go over to the new distilleries in the back of the book, where Wolfburn's still in there. I don't know why. But we do see here Professor David Thompson and his wife, Teresa Church, obtained consent from the local council for the building of the new Annandale Distillery in Dumfries and Galloway in the southwest of Scotland. All right, very good. The old Annandale Distillery had been producing since 1836 and was owned by Johnny Walker from 1895 until it closed down in 1918. From 2024 up until 2007, the site was owned by the Robinson family, who were famous for their brand of porridge oats. David Thompson began the restoration of the site in June 2011, and with the two old sandstone warehouses being restored to function as a two-level dunnage warehouse. There's not much room in a two-level dunnage warehouse, to be honest, but that's just me. And the distillery was in a poor condition, and the mash house and the tun room were largely reconstructed, while the other buildings were refurbished substantially. A lot of money going in there, all right? And the old malting house, the old maltings have been turned into an excellent visitor center. Now, the distillery is equipped with a 2.3-ton semi-lauter mash, so 2.5-ton semi-lauter mash tun, T-U-N, not T-O-N, with a copper dome, and there are 3 wooden washbacks. I read that, I was like, oh, that's so cute, 3 washbacks. I mean, it talks about the size of this distillery. It's almost microscopic here, all right? And they do have a fermentation time of between 72 and 96 hours, with 1 wash still with 12,000 liters and 2 spirit stills with 4,000 liters. So that is very typical for Jim Swan and his influence there. Now, I personally think Annandale, at least considering Germany, and my market view that I have, overview that I have at the moment, have done basically almost nothing in the German market to announce their presence and to really try to capture an audience, a market share here. All right, so Todabig, they have a brand ambassador over here. Every single whiskey fair, everything, they've taken influences over to the Isle of Skye. There's been a lot of things online. They've done a lot to actually engage with the community here. Rase, keep on pushing out new single casks, keep on doing things at different whiskey fairs. So what else do we have here? Nick Neen, not only that, they actually had a camera crew at their place, and they were on national TV in France and Germany. Kingsbarn, very, very good. Lindor's, very, very good. All these other new distilleries are doing so much for publicity and getting that word. Lochlee, Annandale kind of is like really under the radar, almost below ground, subterrestrial. Oh, who knows? I'm not really sure because of capacity or commodity, get money, or why is Annandale really not doing that much? Who knows? All right, what we do have over here in Germany is we have a few different independent bottlers who are at the very, very beginning. They got in on the ground floor at Annandale and bought casks. So I'm not sure if Thilo Schnabel, that's the name of the guy who started the Caskhound, cask, he actually bought this cask 2017, or he might have actually bought it 2018, 19, and now just bottled it. Could be. I think my cask had already been there as well for like 4 to 5 months when I bought it. So it wasn't I bought it and then they filled it. I bought a cask that was already there. So that's just fine. All right, so very, very good. Now let's try the different whiskeys, evaluate them, and talk about them. Let's do this. 1 second. I have a thought. I'm going to wait. Now on the nose, I get barley, sugars. I get a light little bit of a wood note, a pear, a little bit of a sour pear, a little bit of green apple, and a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of cinnamon, interesting enough. This has more of the wood spice I like. And that brings me now to my thought experiment of the day. I might have to change the question of the day to the thought experiment of the day. So I think I mentioned about a week or 2 ago, imagine you had the opportunity at a distillery to do a experiment. So I talked about, maybe it was with Edredauer, we had the Marsala, we had the Bordeaux, and we had the Bourbon, and it was like, okay, what 3, what 6 would you choose to do that? And now I have a new experiment I'd love to do. For example, just take Annandale. Imagine I could buy 6 casks, or I could fill 6 casks at Annandale. What I would do is I would have the spirit from one spirit run go into those 6 casks. I hope they can do that. If it's only four, it's only four, whatever. But I would like the identical thing. All right. So, and then I would buy beforehand. I'd buy a first fill Maker's Mark cask, a first fill wood. Well, I would go for yeah, we could go for a Woodford Reserve, a first fill Wild Turkey, a first fill Heaven Hill, whatever that means. Elijah Craig, yay. A first fill Booker's, a first fill Eagle Rare. All right, so 6 different bourbon casks that have been emptied, that have been transported over to Scotland, and that I can now fill with the same new make, identical new make. And then put it in the exact same location. I mean, sister casks beside each other in the warehouse, not beside a window, but in the middle. Using dunnage warehouses anywhere there, so towards the top, and leave it sit for 5 to 8 years. And then after 5 years, I would try it. Are they ready? Okay. Okay, 8. Oh, yeah. And I would take them and I would actually then bottle them in 0.2 liter bottles. And I'd send out sets. All right. And so we would actually have 6 different distilleries, first fill bourbon casks with exact same distillate. And then you would see how different, my personal opinion, they will be different, the different bourbons have, the difference the bourbons have on that distillate after only 5, maybe only 5 years, maybe 8. Now, the problem that we have here is, even though we're using first fill bourbon casks, there will be a difference. And it's not necessarily just because of the wood, the trees that were used, but it's also because of the original distillate, the bourbon that was in there firsthand. And then we reuse that cask maybe even again, and I'd love to do this experiment a second time. And I'd take those casks and I would refill them with also another run of distillate and let them set for another 10 years and see how those second fill bourbon even out because of the distillate of the first time, more influence than the original bourbon, or if they all strong have deviations still. And that would be, I think from the scientific point of view, would be so interesting. What would be my control whiskey? I don't know. All right, what is my, always with that experiment, you have control, and then you have the variations. I would have 6 different variants. I would not know what my control would be. But that would be something that I would love to do. All right, thought experiment ended, because I think that the Heaven Hill casks are not as good as these casks were. And I don't know what they were. Was it a Buffalo Trace? They used Buffalo Trace at the beginning more. It didn't say it. I'm so sorry. All right, so, and that's the only thing I can think of. Now, the second question I could ask, I'm finally going to come and taste the whiskey, is what other variables would there be? We can talk about the malted barley. Maybe they got different barley harvests. Maybe they got different barley sources. Maybe the barley was malted differently to a different degree, to a different category. Maybe the summers or the winters were between 2015, where this was bottled in 2020, and 2017 and 2022, there was a difference there that changed how it worked. Maybe this was just in the dunnage warehouse. Maybe this was not in a dunnage warehouse. There are so many variables having this product. All right, so both of these first fill bourbon, both of these Annandale, both of these 5 years old, both of these cask strength, and yet they're entirely different. And yet they are different products. All right, so even in the nose, so much better, which is amazing. So this was, as I said, a founder selection. The founders went through there and went, okay, great barrel, okay barrel, great barrel, wonderful white barrel, ooh, that's mine, and so on. And it really is amazing how much difference there is in there. And I'm sure, and I think I've actually experienced this as well, if you put, for example, distillate in the same first fill bourbon barrels, let's say you have 100 first fill bourbon barrels from, let's just say, Heaven Hill, and you put those 100 barrels in there, you leave them set for 5, maybe even longer years, and you come back and you try the 100, there are going to be 5 to 10 that are outliers that just don't match that profile, even though same distillery, same distillate, same everything, and then whoops. How do I account for that in my thought experiment? Any great ideas out there? Cheers. Mm-hmm. There's a certain goodness here. Is it 79 euros good? No. This is for me a C to C minus whiskey. There's heat. There's a little bit of vanilla in there. There's a little bit of wood spice. There's a lot of pepperiness going on there. It's still a very young distillate. I tasted the peated, and that was wow. And I tasted this one, and it was like wow. And I tasted this one, it's like okay. I've had much worse at 5 years. I've had somewhat better at 5 years. And that's what that is. All right, so let's go over to the official tasting notes I could give you here. On the nose, there should be a malty sweetness and a little bit of cookie dough going on here. We'd have pears, we have a little bit of herbalness, we have a warm type of applesauce going on there with a little bit of cinnamon on there. And there might be a little bit of dried cloves on the nose, which I did not get. In the mouth, we're going to get a vanilla sweetness and a little bit of spice notes. And then we're going to have, instead of the apple sauce, we're going to have pear sauce. All right? And with a caramel added to that, followed by peppery notes and a little bit of creamy chocolate. Don't get the chocolate. And at the end, the finish is actually the finish here in my mouth is really long. All right, slightly dry, yes, and there's a lot of spice going on there with just a touch of that dark chocolate, actually. As I said, C to C minus whiskey. Value for money is a C minus to D plus. Would I be willing to go buy another bottle of this? Definitely not. All right, I do think the label is cute, but I don't want to pay 79 euros for whiskey I'm not going to reach for. I'm not going to go grab and say, oh, that was great. A whiskey that costs 79 euros needs to grab my attention. I don't have to make it work for me. I don't have to make it work. It should work for me. All right, so going over here to that man of words, that was cask number here 537. I'm not sure if it's a German exclusive or not. It was a first fill burn. There's so much more depth here. There's so much more creaminess, so much more fruitiness. Even the fruitiness is more. There's a little bit of mango going on in here instead of just the apples and the pears. It's got a much more of a darker moment going on there. And dark not in black, as in more of a beige. After I used the word beige, it was like, no, Roy said beige whiskey is bad. Sorry, Aquavite. Aquavite. Is it 139 euros? No. Is this worth 79 euros? Almost. Is this worth maybe 59 euros for my price and value and my experience of the taste? Maybe. But prices are going up, and so I might have to readjust that as well. All right, very, very good. A lot of thought experiments, a lot of things I've talked about here in that video. What 6 different first bourbon casks would you use? How could I have my control unit so that I know the variables, and how do I do that? And the last thing is, what other variables could have affected the difference of these two whiskeys? Please write all those, whatever you want to, in the chat below would be great. If you've been here and watching my videos for a while, you do notice that it's worth coming back. Not because you'll be able to try the whiskey, not really also my goal, but my desire is to share my journey of learning about whiskey. And so I keep on learning, I keep on sharing, I keep on sharing, I keep on learning. And that's something I do here with my channel actually a lot. And so welcome on aboard and learn together with me all about whiskey. I've been doing it for 6 years now, very intensively. And I've moved to just someone who's like, I want to learn about whiskey, to someone who imports whiskey over here and sells it and makes a living from it, partially at least. And so that's very good to see you. Whiskey Jason here. Share, like, and tell others. Bye-bye.